welcome to today's latest episode of Sean's Movie Crusades. My name is Sean Wasserkrug, and I'm here to review all the latest films and theaters and streaming, as well as anything you guys recommend, whether it be recent films or old school movies. Now, before we get into today's review, don't forget to hit that like, share, and subscribe button to the channel, so that way you guys stay up to date with all the latest videos that pop up, and don't forget to follow us at all the social media outlets you see below. Now, today we're going to be reviewing the remake of the 1989 Stephen King film, Pet Sematary, which is also based off of the book. So, first things first, I only watched the original, like, once, and it was a long time ago, and I very, very, very vaguely remember the film overall. The only thing I really remember is the cat, Church, who's obviously the stable point of the film, and as he is in this movie as well. But the rest of the story, outside of, like, the basic terms of it, I didn't really remember a whole lot. And I've never read the book. Did I go back and kind of, hit some bullet points so that way I could kind of fully understand the stuff so I can go over the review for you? Absolutely. Now, based off of that, there are certain things that happen in this film that are different from the original film and that are also different from the book. So I'm going to do my best to try and not spoil things and explain things to the point where you guys can kind of understand it. Might come off a little vague, but that's just more or less because I'm trying not to spoil aspects of the movie for you. Now, Stephen King, he's had a lot of his books be made into films lately, or he's kind of been more in the focal front with obviously It, Chapter 1, which was a couple years back, and then obviously It Chapter 2 comes out later this September, which I'm super, super excited for. I was a big fan of It Chapter 1. I really liked the 1990 miniseries, even though it doesn't really hold up that well today, except for Tim Curry's amazing performance of Pennywise. Of course, you got other great films he's done, or his books have been about. You got Shawshank Redemption, which is one of the greatest films probably of all time. Green Mile, and then there are plenty more. And then there's quite a few stinkers, obviously as well. But yeah, so with Pet Sematary, from what I remember or gauge, Pet Sematary was kind of like a middle-of-the-road film. The original was. It was very, not necessarily over the top, but I mean, it was a movie definitely of its time. Where if you watch it today, especially certain aspects of the film are very bad. The acting is very bad, but the story left, it had a good story overall. So going into this film, first off, the trailers looked really solid for the movie overall, but what was really selling me on this film from the get-go was the cast. Jason Clarke, he's no matter what movie he's in, whether it's a stinker or whether it's a good film, he always brings his A game, and he always puts full-on effort into everything he does. So knowing that he was in this movie, I felt a lot more confident, because I was like, Jason Clarke's definitely going to go out of his way to try to do this. And then, of course, the other big name is John Lithgow. And John Lithgow is a phenomenal actor. He's been in many things. Most people know him from, like, Third Rock from the Sun, and then a lot of other films. Or he was the voice of, I'm blanking on his name, but from Shrek. I'm blanking on his name, but he's the king in the first Shrek film. Most importantly for me, for any people who are fans of the TV show Dexter, he was a phenomenal character in the Trinity Killer in Season 4 of Dexter, which basically a lot of people say that after that season the whole show went downhill. Let's not jump on that horse, because it does have the worst series finale in television history. But anyway, with those two kind of leading the way in terms of the cast, I was very confident with how this film was going to go. Plus, early word of mouth, because it was shown or screened for people who went to Southwest by Southside Southwest. I'm butchering that, but very positive word of mouth coming out of that on this movie. So let's go ahead and go into it and see how I felt about it and get this review on its way. The general plot, for people who don't know Pet Sematary, basically you have a family. You got basically Jason Clarke, who plays Lewis. You have his wife, Amy Seimetz, who plays Rachel. And then you have his daughter, Gillette, it's French. Lawrence, she plays the daughter, Ellie. And then you've got their, I would say probably 2 or 3 year old son, Gage. and he's played by twins Hugo Lavoli and Lucas Lavoie. And basically they're from Boston, and Lewis is a, I think he said he was a graveyard shift ER doctor. And basically that it's taken a toll on him and the family, and so they're moving to this small town in Maine, and he's taken a job as a university, he's running like the university clinic up there. And so they're all basically moving there so that way he can spend more time with the family and take a lighter load of a job, so that way life's just a lot more easier for them. And of course they have their cat church. So they all move up there, and then they meet their neighbor Judd, played by John Lithgow. And things are kind of just going like a normal film. You know, new family moving into a small town. You know, it's a big house, it's a big piece of land. But one thing they notice is that there's this whole big wooden forest behind them. And one day, Rachel and Ellie are throwing out boxes from the move, and they see a bunch of kids, basically in almost like in a little march, like a parade march, with a dead dog and a wheelbarrow, and they're all wearing these creepy masks, and they're basically heading into the woods. So Ellie kind of sneaks away from Rachel, and she stumbles upon the pet cemetery. And that's where Judd finds her, and he kind of explains that that's where people in this town bury their pets, so that way they have a place to rest when they die. And then in the meantime, Lewis, who's at his job, where it's supposed to be a relaxing gig, has a patient come in who was hit by a car, who viciously was basically killed from the car accident, and it's kind of taken a toll on him to the point where he starts seeing the ghost of this teenager. So you have all this stuff going on, but in the midst of everything happening, you also have Rachel, the wife, who's had a traumatic childhood with her sister Zelda, played by Lissa Brooke Levine. And basically, her sister Zelda had a traumatic disorder where her spine was twisted, and so she was very gangly looking and kind of very unsettling to the eyes, but she could never get out of bed. And it's a very traumatic thing that happened between her and her sister that she still kind of has problems with to this day. So that's something that's going on with the Rachel character. So everyone's kind of going through the situations. But basically, Church the cat basically is found on the side of the road. He stumbled out and must have gotten hit by a car. And Judd tells Lewis that we got to bury the cat tonight. So they go out and they're burying it in the pet cemetery. And Judd asks Lewis, how important is this cat to Ellie? And Lewis responds, well, she means everything, or the cat means everything to Ellie. Which Judd then proceeds to stop burying the grave that they were working on and takes him further into the woods to bury the cat in this special area. By doing so, Church the cat comes back to life, but he's not quite the same Church that everyone knows. He's very gangly, he's very dirty, he's very temperamental to the point where he attacks everybody. He moves very slowly. Clearly there's something that's not quite right with Church. And then something else tragically happens. For anyone who has seen the previous film or read the book, you guys will know what happens, but I am not going to say it here, which leads Lewis to do something very, very stupid, and that's basically where the horror aspect of the film continues on from there. So that's the general plot. A lot of the stuff that I just said, it's going to sound like, man, Sean, you really went into a lot of this film, but this stuff is it's all in the trailer. And even the thing that I'm not telling you, it's also in the trailer. But I just feel like for the people who didn't see it, I'm going to try my best not to explain that. So that's kind of the basis I can go with in terms of the plot. Now, what works with Pet Sematary? There's a lot that works. Most of it actually does work in the film. The performances, left and right, all do a fantastic job. Jason Clarke, like I said, he always does a great job. And he brings it here in terms of the role of Lewis as well. A guy who's literally, you could tell that even though they don't come out and say it, you could tell his job in Boston really took a toll on him. And when the slightest things start going wrong, you can see that it's really starting to affect him, especially when that teenager shows up at the hospital from the car accident. it really messes with him, and it's kind of a downward spiral through the rest of the film, and you're watching Jason Clarke kind of start breaking down in terms, or trying his best to push through it, but you can see the mental walls start to crack and break for him with the events that happen throughout the film. One standout for me that I actually wish they kind of would have given her just a little bit more to do was Rachel, played by Amy Seimetz. I think she did a great job in this movie overall, and to me, she was one of the highlights of the film. But like I said, near the latter half of the film, I felt like they should have given her just a little bit more to do, especially with the storyline with the sister. That could have just pushed the limit a little bit further for her performance. But for what she was actually given to do, I think she did a fantastic job. Juliette Lawrence, who plays Ellie, almost like two sets of performances from her. Basically, the first half of the film, she's your basic kind of run-of-the-mill little girl, but when a certain thing happens in the film, and the performances change for a lot of the cast, she is like a night and day difference from the rest of the movie, and she all of a sudden was just like, damn, she's putting on a great performance for someone at such a young age. And so like the second half of her performance is easily one of the best parts of the film. First half was just kind of like, oh, she's doing the normal little girl stuff, but halfway through the film, she definitely kicks it into another gear and really starts bringing the performance out of the Ellie character. The younger son Gage, I mean, he's playing a 3-year-old. I mean, he's cute. He does fine for the little scenes that he's in, but obviously he's not given much to do. But then, of course, last but not least, you have Judd, played by John Lithgow. John Lithgow, he's John Lithgow. I mean, he's always fantastic. He does a great job with what he's given in the role. Every scene he's in, he acts the hell out of it. His back and forth with Jason Clarke is great. Even his scenes with Ellie do really, really well. He's another character that I wish we just could have gotten a little bit more out of him, storyline wise, than what we actually got. But that's kind of the main thing you're going to kind of hear the beats of with this review. Is I loved all the performances. I just wish we would have gotten more of it, which can't necessarily be a bad thing, but it kind of is in a sense, and we'll get to that. Church the cat, oh yeah, just horrifying. I mean, that is a messed up looking cat. I almost cussed, but I held off. It's one of those things where it's like, yeah, he's a cat, but then when the cat comes back to life, I don't want that cat around me. That cat is terrifying. And you know that cat is not right. And so you need to stay away from that cat. And people just keep going up to this damn cat. And it's just like, I don't trust cats 9 times out of 10 anyway, because I'm definitely a dog person. But that cat's telling you to fuck off. Damn it, there went the cuss word. And people just won't do it. People just keep treating it like it's a normal cat. And it's like, no, that cat's messed up. You need to stay the hell away from it. But yeah, other things that work. The horror aspect of it. Is there a lot of cliche parts in the film? Yes. It's literally the first legitimate actual scene of the movie with the family, right when they get to the house. They do a cheap jump scare that I was like, oh, come on, don't do that. Are there certain parts where there's cliche moments? Yes. But for the most part, the horror aspects of the film work really well. The gore is brutal and vicious. It's definitely not a movie that shies on the gore. Not to say that it's overly gory, but it's just like when there is gore in this film, they are going to basically throw it in your face. Except for this one particular scene where I expected there to be a lot more gore than what we actually got, which just seemed a little weird based off of the movie that we were getting. But it's definitely a very vicious, brutal story, and it holds no punches, and it's basically coming right at you, and you just kind of have to sit there and accept it. It's definitely, for some people, it'll be a hard movie to watch. It's definitely not a pleasant film, obviously. It's not, doesn't really have any comedic elements. It's not like Us, where you can laugh at certain parts. It's definitely just a straight-up horror film through and through. There might be a slight funny moment here or there. The visuals of the film, mainly like the fog treatment, when they're in the pet cemetery or where they're deep in the woods, looks great. The sound effects or the that they use while they're in the woods are haunting and are definitely scary. And if I was in this film, as soon as I would have heard that stuff, I would have been out of there. I would not have stuck around, because I'm not going to be one of those guys that gets killed. So there's a lot of times in this movie where you just would have been like, nope, and just would have left. But it's done in a really well put together way, and everyone, like I said, does a great job in terms of acting. The horror visuals work really well. The gore, except outside of one scene, I think works really, really well. So a lot of it works well overall. Now, what does not work with Pet Sematary is literally the one thing that bugs me the most about the movie. And I went back and I looked at the original film, so that way I could kind of get some basis of like, are the beats in this movie the reason, are the problems that bug me about this film, are they in the original film as well? So, because if that's the point, then maybe it's like, you know what, that's just the way it is, and you just gotta kind of deal with it. Or is it something they just left out completely? And it's kind of a 50-50 on that. The movie's about 140-ish minutes overall, so there's a lot. It goes by. I mean, there's a lull in the middle. It does drag a little bit in the middle because it's kind of setting up the chess pieces for the final act. But I honestly could have used like 40 more, or not 40, 20 to 25 more minutes of actual story, because there is a lot of things that are brought up in this film that could open up so much more story to this world and the town and the woods and the people living there, stuff like that I was really intrigued and interested in, and we just don't get it. The story of Rachel and her sister Zelda, I wanted more out of that story, because that was a very intriguing story, to the point where when it's brought in, it just felt like it was brought in because they needed some more scary elements to the film overall, and not because it really pertains to anything happening in the actual story that's going on, which kind of bugged me out, because I really liked that part of the story, but it really doesn't fit in the main story, except for just adding some more horror to the Rachel character. I felt like there should have been more story for Judd. There's a lot of, you could tell there's a lot of story that he's just not telling us. And even looking back to the original film, there's a big chunk of dialogue that Judd has in this movie that explains certain things they just left out of this movie that I felt like really should have stayed in, because I felt like it would have made certain situations a lot stronger for the story aspect that they just omitted from this film overall. So there's a lot of unanswered questions, a lot of open-ended stories. There's these like, for instance, the creepy kids in the beginning of the film, they looked like they were going to be something that we were going to run into later in the film, and they're never shown again. They're never brought up again. And so it was just like, that's one of those things where it's like I get it's I get it's probably in the book. It's a very scary visual in the film, but it's never touched on again or even mentioned again through the rest of the film. So it's just a weird scene. And there are a lot of things like that where it's just like there's certain things that I wish they just would have given us more of, or elaborated more on, or expanded more on, to make the story and the characters a lot more stronger. Even Lewis's role, his kind of breakdown, I felt just went. And now now a lot of people are gonna go who see this movie like, dude, this thing happened, so it makes sense. And while yes, I agree with that, I also felt like the certain actions that he makes were just a little too quick. And you guys will only understand that if you guys know either the previous film or you guys went and saw this. Like I said, there's just certain parts where it's just like, I felt like there could have been some more time dedicated to the story, the family, the world that they're in, that definitely could have helped make this story stronger, make the characters stronger, and make the world of Pet Sematary a lot stronger overall. Hell, even for the church, the cat character, I felt that there just could have been a lot more that they just were leaving on the cutting room floor. There's a certain scene and I know a lot of people probably won't notice it, but I noticed it right off the bat. And knowing that this is a big problem in the original film is they have one scene with Rachel's parents. And in the original film, Rachel's parents don't get along with Lewis. So there's only one scene with the parents in this, and the dad is just giving Lewis the biggest evil eye through the entire scene. And that's the only scene we get of him. So it's just like, wow, this dad's just really hating on Lewis. But there's no mention throughout the entire film of her family not liking Lewis or anything happening. So it's just a weird scene. So clearly there was something they had shot that they just didn't put in the film. It's just like, that's what I'm talking about. There's just a lot of stuff that they just did not expand on or go into great detail. Maybe that's because it made the movie drag, or it slowed down the overall momentum of the film, so they decided to remove it. Which that's a director's decision at that point, which I don't necessarily agree with, because I feel like you could have made the overall story of the film a hell of a lot stronger if you would have let those things in or expanded more on these characters overall. Because of that, it's and this rolls into my overall thoughts. I liked a lot of what Pet Sematary did, but that story element, there's just so much like kind of question marks, or why did they do this, or why did this character do this? There's no reason for this character to have done this. It's just, there's a lot of what ifs and how's this, or why would this happen, or this needs to be explained, or this needs to be elaborated. The end is also quite abrupt, but the original film also ended quite abruptly, so I can't really knock that at all. So the ending might tick off a lot of people who weren't expecting the end to be like that. But yeah, so I mean, overall, with Pet Sematary, it's kind of an uneven experience for me. There were a lot of things I liked. The little things that I didn't like ended up kind of rolling into the things I did like. So it's very uneven for me overall. Is it something I can recommend? If you guys want a horror that isn't Us, or people who watched the original Pet Sematary or read the book, maybe you guys will enjoy this. Is it something that I can say everyone needs to go out and see? No, I don't. I don't think that. I think most people could probably, pass this and be totally okay. For people looking for a horror film, yeah, definitely go check it out. And feel free to comment, leave me messages on any of the social media sites, and let's talk about it. Did you do you agree with the things that I had problems with in the film, or did that stuff not bother you? What did you think of the performances? What did you think of the film overall? Feel free to leave those comments for me, because I would love to talk to somebody about this that actually saw the same film as me, just to see if they kind of had the same problems that I did overall. Because I feel like it's one of those things where it's like, I feel like this is a very glaring problem with the movie, but I also feel like this is something that I'm only noticing. And so if you guys see those see those things, or don't, feel free to message me and let me know, because that's what, and be nice to each other when you do that. No fighting. But yeah, so like I said, Pet Sematary, very uneven film overall. Can't necessarily recommend it. But yeah, anyone who is a fan of the original probably will like this one as well. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the review. If you guys did, go ahead and hit that like button. And if you guys feel like this review is worth sharing, go ahead and hit that share button. But most importantly, don't forget to hit that subscribe button to the channel. And before I forget, based off of the overall review, going into the top 10 films of the year, because I liked a lot of what this movie did, it definitely gets into the top 10, but it is going to go right in at that top 10 slot, which will be knocking out Dumbo. I told you it wasn't going to last very long in the top 10. It knocks Dumbo out of the top 10. The rest of the top 10 has gone unchanged from last week, except for the number 10 slot. So we still have Us at number 1, Shazam at number 2, Fighting With My Family at number 3, How to Train Your Dragon 3, The Hidden World at 4, The Lego Movie 2, the second part at number 5, followed by Happy Death Day to You at 6, The Upside at 7, Captain Marvel at 8, Alita Battle Angel at 9, and Pet Sematary debuting at the number 10 slot, with Dumbo dropping out. Next week, we've got Hellboy coming out, so we'll see where that pops up on the top 10 list as well. And then, of course, obviously, we got Endgame coming up at the end of the month, and we probably know where that's going to end up on the list. But yeah, so, like I said, and also, Shazam came out this week. Like I said, I got to see it 2 weeks ago, so that review is up. So if you guys want to see what I thought of Shazam, feel free to head over to the YouTube page and find the review there. But until next time, good morning, good afternoon, and good night, Movie Crusaders.